Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I'm doing October's historical event video. October 18th, 1685, the French king Louis XIV at the time revoked the Edict of Nantes. The Edict of Nantes protected the Huguenots of France, who were Protestants. They were not Catholic, which was a huge deal and caused a massive rift in France because France was, and I believe still is, largely Catholic. The Edict of Nantes protected them from persecution for their religious beliefs, and when it was revoked, they had to register and were often burnt or otherwise killed because of their religious beliefs. I have several books that I would like to recommend, and let's get started. The first one is actually Calvin's Institutes of Religion from 1541. Yeah, that sounds right. Calvin technically was about a century earlier, however, I do think it is a really good example of religion that wasn't Catholic. Considering Calvin was in Switzerland most of the time, but he did spend some time in France, I think it's a good, interesting read, if you are into theology at all, to understand part of at least one sect of Protestantism. The next book is Mary Queen of Scots by, I think, Jane Yolen. I'll put a picture up on the screen so that you can see, because I don't have this book with me, it's in Colorado. One of these days I will get all of my books. Promise. Now, Mary Queen of Scots is a fictional account of Mary Queen of Scots. It is obviously set in the 1540s and 50s when Mary is actually in France and engaged to and shortly married to Francis, who is the Dauphin of France at the time. I include this book, even though it is also a century before the Edict of Nantes is revoked, because it provides sort of a backdrop with a very famous woman, Mary Queen of Scots, whom I will keep my personal opinions out of. Next I have In the Shadow of the Sun King by Golden Keys Parson. This is the one book in this collection that I have not read, and this is obviously in the Sun King, who is Louis XIV, so she sees it, and the main characters of this book are Huguenots themselves, and so when the Edict of Nantes is revoked, they're very much so affected by it, and it follows her as she tries to decide whether it's better to be outwardly Catholic or not, and I think she has a relationship with the king. She has some sort of history with the king, and so she has to choose between being loyal to him or being loyal to her faith. It is a Christian fiction, so the faith is a much bigger part than in many of the other books, but I do actually enjoy some of the Christian fiction that are set in historical times, because I read pretty much any historical fiction. So I'm excited to get to this one at some point, probably not until next year, but I'll let you know. And then the last book, and definitely my favorite on this list, is To Dance with Kings by Rosalind Laker. This book is phenomenal. Oh my goodness. When my friend Katie was in Nicaragua, this is the first book I read while she was there that actually caused me to send a ranting text to her. That was so shocking to both of us because I don't rant much about books, especially over texting. I just sort of scream and squeal in my own head and move on. But this one really got my blood moving. It is in the 17th century in France, and it follows a young woman who somehow manages to climb the ranks in French society, and then it continues over 2 or 3 generations. Rosalind Laker is a really amazing writer who does multi-generational books. I loved how she wove them all together in this one, and I think it was fantastically done. She also did include the Edict of Nantes because, I may be pronouncing that wrong, Nantes, anyway. It's a really phenomenal book because the Edict of Nantes is included, seeing as it goes from Louis XIV all the way to Louis XVII and his unfortunate loss of head, where these people have to decide what religion they're going to be, why, and how willing they are to stay in France and possibly lose their heads, or be burned, or go to England, which is what a lot of French Huguenots did to avoid, death. This is, like I said, my favorite book out of this group. I highly, highly, highly recommend anything by Rosalind Laker, but this one I think is probably my favorite that I've read of hers because the descriptions are just so beautiful and the relationships are amazing and the happy ending is not quite what you expect it to be. Those are all the books I have to recommend about the Edict of Nantes being revoked in 1685. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will leave a link to my Goodreads and Twitter down below, but I will see you in my next video. Bye.